And now, our feature presentation.
The best
in the world
is right here, right now.
Whether you like it or don't like it, pal, learn to love it.
Ladies and gentlemen,
welcome.
All right, listen up.
Now it's our time to step forward. It's time to bring the NWA back into the spotlight.
It's quite evident to me that Hunter, who has sat underneath Vince's learning tree, has learned a lot
now. Okay.
because there's many great lessons you can learn from Vince McMahon. And one of the lessons is assume that the people that are watching your show have never seen your show before.
Your #1 source
and you have to bring them up to speed every single week.
Wrestling Alliance.
And if you don't know who anybody was last night on NXT when the show started, you knew who they were by the time the show ended. Thus, you might have been able to hook somebody. And I always go back. I know we got to take a break. I always go back to when my grandmother used to watch The Young and the Restless. I was a young teenager.
To be here.
I didn't want to watch soap operas with my grandmother, but I'll be
in the chat. It's like we got a few people in there: Terry, Jimmy, James, Dave, and the rest of the crowd. Good to see you guys tonight. DK, you gonna say hi or?
How are the people?
There we go.
I knew
something was coming.
I'm wondering if anyone's even seeing this right now. If you guys are here, say something.
I see
something.
It. I see something.
All right.
Yeah, I see us. We're on there, and
we're all like extra
Devin's
close.
looking just handsome as ever.
Naturally.
All right, everyone's awake now. I see we got Jimmy LB in the house. We got James H. Jackson. We've got Dave Scoob. We got the whole posse. Kukushi's here. Whoa, Kukushi's here early.
Cocoa Puffs is here. All right.
Terry McDermott's in the house. We got a full house already here. So let's not stand on ceremony, right, guys? I mean, we're here to talk NWA. We're here to talk NWA Power. And I know there's like a mixed bag here with the Alliance guys, and we're gonna get into it in just a few minutes. But this episode is kind of polarizing. Episode number 32 of NWA Power. There was a lot of things that were pretty good about this show. I mean, stuff that if they did on a more regular basis, I think all three of us would be very happy with. And then there's some things about the show that were just kind of, again, buffoonery. It insults my intelligence as a wrestling fan. It makes me not want to watch the product. And we'll get to all of that in just a minute. But first and foremost, the show starts off with everyone's favorite group of would-be champions. We have the 10 pounds of gold front and center with Nick Aldis. Oh, real quick, speaking of world champions, can we just say happy birthday to the real former world champion, Scrap Iron Adam Pearce?
Hey.
Can we just say happy 29th to the guy who's, the official for WWE programming?
Hey. 29.
Happy birthday to one of the top NWA champions of the last, I don't know,
30 years?
20 years?
Yeah. As Kevin could attest to, Adam's role with the NWA when he was a part of the product was not just as a champion, but also working behind the scenes, coaching people. And it's really cool to see Adam at that level where he is at now. His days wrestling in the ring are behind him, but he's still very vocal on the, of course, WWE, the top of professional wrestling, and he still has a voice. I think that's really, really cool.
Agreed.
Okay, so happy birthday, champ. Now we'll go back to Strictly Business. Tom Latimer, Chris Adonis, Camille, the women's champion, and of course Nick Aldis, the real world's champion. The four of them are basically talking about how Conspiracy Corgan, it keeps throwing a wrench into the clockwork, if you will. What I thought was kind of fitting here is when Camille was asked about the title match, she said it was stupid. And I just kind of thought, hey, I agree with you, lady. She's becoming more and more the voice of reason for this program. She says Chris Adonis still thinks that he is champion, that he should have never been forced to abdicate the title, which it is what it is. And then Aldis deflected Kyle Davis's comments about him pulling the strings, saying that he's not the matchmaker, that if he has a problem with it, to go talk to Billy Corgan in the control room, which, of course, Kyle Davis declines. What did you guys think of the opening segment of NWA Power? We'll go with you first, DK.
It was what it was. Again, more back and forth with Joe Galley, and I don't care. I don't know. I stated every week I don't care. The other 2 weeks ago when you guys were talking about how, they should have punched Galley in the face if he had, I never felt that way when I watched the thing, because I didn't care because it's a stupid booking thing. I mean, just absolutely 100% stupid. And the problem is they've got me trained now to the point that when Strictly Business is out there, I don't want to listen to it. Kevin, did you pay attention?
Yeah, I paid attention. It was, it was just kind of it wasn't a super entertaining opening promo. And I'm going to have a theme that I typically do throughout the night when I'm trying to make a point to get my point across. And that is that we have found out who the true draw, who the true main event, what NWA power in this NWA era is all about. And that is William Patrick Corgan. Is that his full name?
I've heard of him.
Yeah. This show has become to me the Billy Corgan show. We're bringing on guys that he wants in here, where he's in the conversations with everything that's major in terms of title picture. And now when they ask Kyle Davis if he wants to go say something to Corgan, oh God, no. And it's like, oh, well, that great leader, one that everyone's afraid of, that they're afraid to say something to him. So again, I'm starting to really understand that this show is more or less out here to entertain Mr. Corgan, to stroke his ego.
James H. Jackson said, open with the match just one week, please. I can't remember that happening. I'm sure it has, but I don't remember that happening in a very long time.
Imagine this. Imagine the show starts and the first thing you see is because if we're going to go old school NWA, they actually used to do that. They'd open the show and they'd have like the names of the people right across the top, right there. They'd have the names of the people, and they would already be in the ring ready to roll. That would be cool, but, we already know it. We're going to see Nick Aldis in the opening segment pretty much every week. If we don't, that's a strange thing. And we're going to have to make reference to Billy Corgan in every segment.
Well, the next segment, we get May Valentine, who... again, I think she's really coming into her role as a backstage commentator, backstage interviewer. And she's with Crimson and Jax, the War Kings. And she asks why Crimson asked for the match. And Crimson tells her that he doesn't just want the match. He wants a no grudge, no rules grudge match. And the one thing I noticed was Jax's eyes during this whole thing. He was kind of like bouncing around a lot, like... It just felt a little weird. I don't know if you guys noticed that. And he said, you never leave your wingman behind. What did you guys think of this? Oh, and then it was kind of funny, too, when May says, well, I guess this is the end. And I kept thinking, no, this is the War Kings. You got your tag teams mixed up. But, Kev, what did you think of the backstage promo?
It was a little bit confusing. I've settled it in my heart that they're just not going to give the War Kings like any kind of major like push as a team. They're just going to do that thing where they constantly tease whether there's dissension or not. And so this was consistent with that. And it's kind of funny because I feel like it's almost like a touch on what happened. It almost feels like Crimson's going to be the heel in this because Dane seems to be the only one really all about his partner. Crimson, on the other hand, seems to be more, leaning towards doing whatever he wants to do. So I do see either a feud or a breakup in the near future here. And it just to play on David's favorite thing, the good old tag team. They hate tag teams.
DK, your thoughts?
It was okay. I didn't understand why they did it then. I mean, we just had something that anybody who's been watching the shows probably worn out by, with strictly business out at the podium. So why do we need to go behind the curtain, so to speak, and do a backstage interview?
So we went front of the house and then back of the house.
Right, and it's just, you know, they have something they call Power Surge, which they do recaps and interviews. So can we save this crap for that? Because they only put one match on anyway, so let's, you know, less of this. You know, I'm to the point now where I just want to, you know, because of some work scheduling now, I can't see the show live, so I have to watch it either later that evening or the next day. And I'm reaching the point now where I just want to keep hitting the button to see when do they start in the ring, because I'm just worn out of this talk about nothing, talk. Dissension. Billy Corgan apparently likes dissension because it's everywhere in the show.
Well, and it's kind of like, I think it's like when we talked about content, it's almost like nothing to see here, moving along, nothing to see here. You don't feel like if you missed a promo, you're going to miss something.
James H. Jackson said, no, we have to recap from Power. And then Terry McDermott said, strictly business have become boring.
Wow.
Well, on the interview part, I would agree.
I agree.
So that brings us, to the next segment, which is 7 minutes and 33 seconds into the show. We finally get our first match. Now that's, believe it or not, that's down from the week before where it was like 15 minutes. And I think it's even down from 2 weeks ago when it was like 23 minutes. So, I mean, we could at least celebrate the fact that they're getting to the punch quicker. And the first match we get is Mims versus the Mystery Man. And I thought this was a very good match. Mims has been growing on me since day one. I'm happy with his progression. He looks in better shape. We mentioned from season 1, episode 1. He looks better. His wrestling is becoming more fluid. He's believable in the ring. And then you've got this Mystery Man who they don't know where he's from. They don't know who he is. And he just gets out there and wrestles a pretty standard match. Nothing flashy, nothing crazy, just very much textbook wrestling. And I thought it was a great match. DK, I would love to hear your take on this match.
Now, just in the ring, it was a decent match. Went just over 6 minutes. I do want to do a nitpick about the before, is that they take too long letting the wrestlers get to the ring and doing introductions, but sometimes they don't do the introductions. You know, let's be consistent. Let's present this as a sport. Let's do standard introductions, and then let's, you know, do a quick. We don't need to see them come from behind the curtain. Get them in the ring while you're doing these 50 minutes of interviews, and then let's do an introduction, ring the damn bell, because we could have had another 2 or 3 minutes in this match if they do something like that, even with all those interview time. So, but now when it comes to the match itself, I enjoyed the match itself. Now, I have my own star rating system. It's not the Dave Meltzer rating system, which has no top. It's a 1 to 5 rating. 1 was it sucked. 2 was it solid. 3 was damn, that was good. 4 was oh yeah, and 5 is the holy shit chant. So, and I'm going to tell you that most matches should fall in the 2 to 3. And so for me, this was a very solid 2. It was a very good match. They did some good wrestling. Yeah, there was nothing fancy, but, it kind of worked for the men that were in there. Commentators did drive me a little bit crazy during this match, focusing a little too much on Mystery Man being a mystery man. And Mystery Man's a very stupid name. Give him a name. I don't care. Spoiler 3, that guy, the masked man, something. They did compare him, I noticed, to several masked wrestlers, including Masked Superstar, who I was a huge fan of when I was young. And, but just in terms of the match, it was good. If I have a nitpick with the match itself, maybe Mims got a little too much offense for a guy that's supposed to be there representing Billy Corgan. But, that's a nitpick. That's not a, that was terrible. So, yeah, I enjoyed the match. If I had just started there and watched the match, I'd go, hey, this is off to a pretty good start. Kevin?
I thought it was good for like a 80s jobber match.
Wow, okay.
A little more competitive than an 80s jobber match, but yes.
No, an 80s match between 2 jobbers.
Oh, I see what you're saying, yes.
Not a squash match. Like an 80s jobbers. Like a couple of 80s jobbers. If you want to compare it to that, it was good for that. Yeah, that's what I felt. I thought the Mystery Man was anything but mysterious, but that's okay. Mims, I like Mims, but I think we all know, like, Mims is not going to be a champion, and if he is, it's not deserved. But as a whole, technically sound, it was one of the better, like, technically sound pulled off matches that they've had in a while. Like the distance that they went, like we had some in-ring wrestling. As I'm watching, I'm like, Devin's liking this because I bet by the time that match was over, the wrestling to promo time was close to even. So, props on that because we got some wrestling on the wrestling show. But like I said, it was good for an 80s jobbers match. Would it? And just so you know, on my level of why I'm saying this is that would that match have settled? Like, would that match have been acceptable in certain other wrestling programs as its opening match? Absolutely not.
Wow. I was actually, I actually enjoyed the match. I thought it was pretty good. I just want to read some of the comments here. James H. Jackson said the match was just getting good before it ended. I feel if they had an extra 5 to 8 minutes, this would have been real good. Terry McDermott said this match was refreshing after all the talking. Dave Scooby says he liked the match for what it was, but he wished they would do an update on the previous week with the TV title match, continuing continuity to keep the storyline going. Remember last week they were talking about Colby Corino and Sauronaro and PJ Hawk were discussing that TV title, and they made no mention of it this week on television. And Traducus says that's because we all know the Mystery Man is Ray Gonzalez, which that's a hell no for your boy J Cal. Kikuchi says maybe next week DK can't make it, and the Alliance guys have a mystery host. Is that a threat? Was he threatening you? And
I can hope.
Look. The three things that I really liked about this match is that, number one, it had a finish. Number two, nobody came out to interfere. And number three, it did the job of showing, that this guy has some talent. He hits that Death Valley driver. I like the way that finish was, where he rolled it right up into a pin. I thought it was clean. I was happy with this match. I looked at that guy. Go ahead, Kev.
No, I didn't want to interrupt your thought, but I didn't want to move on before I make my illustration.
Sure. Well, let's do it. What's your illustration?
When you're starving, when you are like hungry, starving, and someone gives you a cracker, Man, that's the best cracker you ever had in your life. But it ain't filet mignon, baby.
I'm
just because it tastes so good because you're so hungry, don't make it top of the line.
I'm Papa Esco over here. I'm starving.
Right.
Well,
we are all so desperate for some wrestling on this show that when they feed us a cracker, we're starving for it. So all of a sudden, this cracker tastes like filet mignon.
I'm gonna slightly agree and slightly disagree with Kevin. I'm going to go with, what was said. It's good for what it was. I mean, and this is a type of match that in the 80s and even the 90s would have been like an opening match on a card. Not necessarily, what was kind of called jobber to the stars back then. A jobber to the stars facing a, jobber.
Another jobber.
Yeah, and so, but, yeah, you're right. I mean, I'll take the cracker. I never thought it was filet mignon, but, I'll take the cracker.
I mean, I thought it was at least Doritos.
Well, I mean, better. I gave
Doritos had a little bit of flavor, Jay. Oh!
I'm saying there was a little bit of flavor in this match.
A little
I think there was too.
Okay.
Well, we know Kevin's the negative Nelly of this group.
Kevin maybe just has higher standards.
That's probably what it is. Yeah.
Kevin's the negative Nelly of the group. We all know that.
Well,
what happened next, Jay?
So it's funny. We all had different takes on that match, but this, I think we can all agree, was probably the worst moment in the entire history of Power, and that's including the Rock and Roll Express winning the tag team titles. And I'm talking about BLK Jeez bringing out Jordan Clearwater, saying that he's got a plan, and why this match is even taking place is confusing to me, but we'll get to that in a minute. Tyrus comes out, and BLK Jeez says, church's money, and they lay down. Clearwater obviously has some, angel devil on his shoulder trying to figure out what he wants to do. Eventually, he lays down. Tyrus gets the 1, 2, 3, and what was the most awkward, painful, stupidest waste of time that Power has done. And there's no way you could make me think otherwise. DK, bury it, please.
I mean, if I were to do my star rating system, I couldn't do it on this because it wasn't a match. It made no sense to put nobody over. Right now, BLK Jeez is totally meaningless. It's worthless. He's defeated. Never need to see him again because he's stupid. I mean, just nobody ever would do that. I mean, and it's just, and Clearwater, who I don't know who in the back hates him, but apparently somebody does. And so, I mean, I like that he didn't just go for it when he was told. There was at least a little bit of, listening to the shoulder talkers, but still, I mean, I'm like Kevin. I mean, I think there comes a certain point where you got to go, if this is how you're going to, we need to talk about how you're using me, because the idea of TV exposure is to make people want to book me. And if if people aren't going to want to book me, then you're going to have to start paying me a lot more. That's why they were called jobbers, because their job was to lose.
Well, and Jordan Clearwater, I mean, on look alone, is a talent, but we know he's good in the ring. So why you would do this to a young talent in your company like this, I have no idea. But on the other side, why Jordan Clearwater would say, okay, you're crazy. You're crazy. Like, you're crazy to let somebody coerce you. Like, beat me up in the back then. Fire me. Don't pay me. Whatever you're going to threaten me with. Like, if that's me, I busted my butt through wrestling training. I got knocked out. I paid my dues like every single day. And you're going to ask me to go out there and just throw it all away because you're putting me on TV, you're out of your mind. You're out of your mind. And so I would have never said yes to something like that. And I've wrestled 450-pound men, got thrown around the ring, and I've done those things, especially early in my career. I did some squash matches with Crusher Kong and Ernie Ladd's son and some of those, these guys. And yeah, I mean, but they never just buried me. They at least let me go. When Crusher Kong beat me up, he's like, God dog it, man. You gave me bruises everywhere because I was out there throwing hands, like I got squashed, but I was still out there. And I'm 5'7", 160 pounds. Jordan Clearwater's 6 foot something, 230 pounds. He's in great shape, looks good, has great gear. Craziness, man. Craziness, because you got a guy like that on one end getting buried, and then you have a guy like Slice Boogie who's really good getting completely the opposite treatment, which I find it just bizarre. I just don't. But again, I've decided, and we've all probably come to this place, we are in the wrestling twilight zone when we're talking the NWA.
And Gong Show.
Gong Show.
Hat tip to Terry in our chat. Well, I want to say this. I want to say this real quick before we move on, or let Jay have his say and then move on. I got more messages about this show than any other show. People ask me, "Did you watch it? Have you seen it yet?" And almost everybody told me the show was terrible. And everybody who told me the show was terrible really pointed to this thing. And I wasn't really explaining what had happened. Even when Jay told me, well, they laid down, I thought he was talking more metaphorically than, actual, that's what happened in the ring. And so I had no clue until I actually watched the show. And now the good thing about everybody telling me it was terrible is my expectations were so low, I probably enjoyed this show more than the average person. But I certainly see where this particular thing can destroy a show for somebody. This is a turn the channel thing, turn it off, go get a beer, turn on your favorite cartoon from when you were a kid, something. I mean, anything other than what I just saw. How am I supposed to take the rest of the show seriously after this point? And I mean, based on people messaging me and everything, the answer was a lot of people didn't. They had a hard time getting over this part in the show. And I see why. Okay?
The two more points I wanted to make before we move on is Tim Storm said, are they getting paid for this? And I just kind of popped when he said that, because I thought, no, they shouldn't be. I mean, I'm sure they are, but they shouldn't be. And then the second thing is, when Kyle Davis was talking to BLK Jeez and talking to Jordan Clearwater, the interesting thing happened. He said, we know that you're normally here to represent Jordan Clearwater. That's never been put in anyone's face. That never has been expressed. The storytelling, the continuity, the booking, whatever you want to call it, is just not consistent. Because one week we have Jeez trying to talk to Tyrus, trying to talk to Austin Idol about a business proposition. The following week he sends Jordan Clearwater to do that, but it's not indicated that he's representing him or that he's his manager or anything like that. And then this week, instead of these guys having a talk backstage or something, we have a match that seems entirely pointless, that never really even happens. And now you're alluding to BLK Jeez being Jordan Clearwater's manager when that was never stated anywhere before. It just feels like this whole segment was indicative of what's wrong with the NWA. You expect us to know these things. You haven't really dropped breadcrumbs. You put something out there that was a waste of time, that did nothing for anybody. It didn't advance Jordan Clearwater. It didn't advance BLK Jeez. It didn't advance Tyrus, because, yeah, he got the win and they were afraid of him, but he didn't even fight to get the win. So it was nothing. It was a waste of time, and there's nothing redeeming about it. And this is the kind of shit, sorry guys, this is the kind of shit that just irks me about this brand. I want to support it. I want to love it. I want everything to be great. This was awful.
Oh man, I mean, I'm not gonna tell you like that I saw this thing kind of coming early on, but it's this time through. But this just doesn't surprise me anymore. And like I said at the very beginning of the show, you know, when you have a guy who really knows nothing about wrestling making the final calls, this is the crap you get. It turns into a sideshow because truth is, like, no offense, but say what you want about Vince McMahon, but he's been hit in the face with a chair. He's taken bumps. He's paid.
He's had his face shoved in Rikishi's ass.
He paid. Not only did he pay physical dues, but he paid financial dues. That man put everything he had on the line, his entire life savings, his entire inheritance on the line for wrestling. So, love him or hate him, you can't tell me that he hasn't got in there and earned the right to at least have an opinion based on what he sacrificed for it. Billy Corgan has never done anything but buy a company and pay wrestlers to do what he tells them to do. And you're just going to have a completely different perspective of the business when that's who you are. Because to people, what this tells me is that whoever's making the final calls, that wrestling is a joke. And like I told these guys off the air, you know, Hood Slam is for fun. It's not supposed to be taken seriously. And I said, when I grade this show on the somewhere between Hood Slam and cheesy 80s territory wrestling, that's how I can enjoy this show. When I try to compare it to modern wrestling and like where wrestling is today, it ruins it for me. So to me, this is great comedy. I mean, you're going to make a joke of wrestling like you have been week in and week out. You're just in line with what you've already been.
Well, see, that's where I disagree. It's not funny. I mean, if it made me laugh, I would go, yeah, you're right. And, you know, I'm going to take a little bit of umbrage with your thing of cheesy 80s wrestling. Wrestling on TV in the 80s had a purpose. And that purpose was to sell live shows. You were supposed to see the stars squash the nobodies so that when they went out to face each other in matches, you know, at the Omni every other week or in Macon, Georgia, or Corpus Christi in Texas, or, you know, Oklahoma and Mid-South, or Kansas City, St. Louis, any of the big territories, Nashville, and stuff like that. Those shows they were infomercials. They were to sell you a product, to go out and to go buy these shows. And these are places that, you know, that could run some cities weekly and sell thousands of tickets. So this isn't cheesy 80s wrestling. This is just cheesy wrestling.
I can agree with that. I can agree with that. I mean, I don't disagree with that.
I don't want to belabor this anymore, but I just want to say one last thing. The sad thing about it is when I saw that there was going to be a 2-on-1 handicap match, I thought we were going to get that booking that Kevin and I spoke about a couple weeks ago of how to use Tyrus. You put him in there with two guys and let him beat him up and build up his credibility that way. And I honestly thought we were going to get that. I really did. So when it ended up the way it did, it just made things even worse. But let's move on. Let's move on to the podium, where we get Kyle Davis with two former NWA World Women Champions in Thunder Rosa and Serena Deeb. Now this was a little confusing too. I don't really understand what they were trying to get at. At first it seemed like maybe they were going to build to a match between Thunder Rosa and Serena Deeb for maybe a number one contender spot. Thunder Rosa never got her rematch at Serena Deeb. So she kind of has, a dog in the fight. Serena Deeb lost the title, so she's supposed to get a rematch. She has a dog in the fight. And this is kind of weird where you get Thunder Rosa now talking to Serena Deeb the way that Camille was talking about Thunder Rosa just a couple weeks ago. And then it gets off the rails because Kyle Davis asks about who they want to mentor. And then Serena Deeb brings out Kylie Ray, saying that she's like the future of women's wrestling. And then Melina comes out for reasons unknown. And then you get Sky Blue coming out. Now it's just a big giant cluster. I have no idea what they were trying to accomplish at this point. Kevin, I'm going to go to you first. What did you think about this? Could you make any sense of it? What was going on in your mind?
It was again, I mean, if you just throw a bunch of crap out there and you don't really give any clear direction, that's what you're going to get. But I do want to clear something up real quick before I move on into this, just for DK's peace of mind, because I know he needs it, but also in response to Willie saying that territory wrestling was not cheesy. See, this wasn't a blanket statement. This was a statement about that match where you saw that dude that was out of shape wearing a mask wrestling another guy that was really flabby, and it was, you just watch it and you're going, okay, when's Kerry Von Erich coming out? That's the type of cheesy 80s wrestling I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the good stuff. We're talking about JYD versus Hacksaw Jim Duggan or Buzz Sawyer or Ted DiBiase, some of the great territory wrestlers of the day. But those matches where you just go, come on, and these days those matches would never. Those are the matches that Paul Heyman, as a joke, would put those matches out there so 911 could go choke slam them both. So don't tell me they're not a thing. So back to this situation. I thought it just was a big cluster, like we kind of said. I didn't really understand where it was going. I felt like they just wanted to get everybody TV airtime, and wanted to let everybody have a chance to talk on the mic. And this was their way of getting them all out there at the same time to do it. I really think Thunder Rosa, like, I don't know, I just feel like she's the best thing they've got, or at least was. And it just seems like every week they find ways to kind of drag her down more. And I felt like this was a little bit of the same. I just felt like it didn't add anything to her. And she's supposed to be one of your cornerstones, and you're not doing her. I mean, I'd rather see Thunder Rosa go and beat somebody up in a 3-minute match than to hear her week in and week out on promos. So, I'm not sure what they're going for with it. Serena Deeb was pretty good on the mic, though. I was impressed with her. She seemed to be the one. Her and Thunder Rosa made the thing somewhat believable. It made me feel like at least a couple people are taking this thing seriously. Everybody else seemed like they were out there goofing off.
DK?
It was about dissension and drama. I mean, it was. But, Deeb and Rosa had to have their little back and forth, and Melina had to be reassured by Rosa that she loved her, and Sky Blue had to come out. What do you mean talking about Ricky of the team? Billy Corgan, his emo little self, seems to like, for there to be drama, tension, and dissension, and all that. And, if you look, there's tension, and Strictly Business, in the World Tag Team Champions, in War Kings, in this thing here. You don't really know what's truly going on with Rose and Melina half the time. And now the new things coming in, and it's their theme. And like if it was being played in one place, well, because none of these are being done well, but if it was being played in one place well, you could sit there and go, what's going on here? Let me watch this. But it's everywhere. And when it's everywhere, it's meaningless. Like, okay, it's just a show. But yeah, that's what Corgan books. So they talked a long time. And shout out to our good buddy in the chat, James H. Jackson Jr., for saying this is Carney land for $5 a month. I mean, yeah, this is closer to Carney land than it was the pre-pandemic Power.
Yeah.
Well, and doesn't the name Carney land like allude to how they see this show?
It very much does.
Carney land.
And how they see the fans.
You know, goofball land. Well, and again, and DK, you made a really good point about dissension. It does seem like every promo, every storyline centers around dissension and drama, which is not I mean, gosh, guys, that's part of wrestling. But I painfully agree with DK on this one that there should be some point at the show that it's about wrestling, you know, and about the matches and about the titles.
Well, I mean, you got Terry McDermott saying it's the National Talking Alliance. Dave Scooby says, who's Melina going to latch onto when Rosa leaves? Traducus says, it honestly sounds like the NWA needs a strong booker. I mean, you're not wrong. None of these are wrong. Right. And to Billy Corgan's point, dissension is a real thing, right? I mean, in life, we all have dissension, but it seems like, you know, I'm sure you guys have a best friend or a buddy that you don't fight, that you don't have arguments with. And it's like not one person on this roster has a pal that's got their back without some sort of weird, like, I'm going to backstab you or whatever. It's very peculiar to me. And after all that talking with Kylie Ray and all that talking
Jay, can I barge in? I want to barge in. I know you're going on a thing here, but I have a question for you. Yeah. You just said. Did you just say that Billy Corgan said that made a comment about dissension?
No.
Or is that something that we're kind of alluding to?
I'm alluding to. He hadn't said anything as far as I know about the booking, but like you know, to add dissension into some of the storylines, I mean, that's a real life thing. I mean, there's some people out there that you're just not going to get along with, and there's sometimes you are forced to be in a position where you're teaming with somebody or working with somebody who you have no respect for, or you don't want to work for. I mean, I get that. But then, you know, it seems like in every facet of the NWA, there's some sort of dissension. To me, that seems a little over the top, right?
It is. Agreed.
And
I agree. I think we all agree.
And so, you know, after we get all this talk from these ladies, we go back with May Valentine with more ladies. And these are actually two of the ladies I like on the roster as well, because you've got Taryn Terrell, who I think is just charming as heck.
Awesome.
She is fun. I love Taryn Terrell. And then you've got Genocide, who, honestly, she's becoming one of my favorite wrestlers on the roster, too. And now you're looking at maybe there's like this I don't know what the hell to call it, but now this seems like there's a pairing there. And again, we're not getting continuity from week to week. The coronation ceremony where Melina interrupted and Genocide came out and kicked her out of the ring, you know, they didn't carry that over to when they wrestled each other in the match. And then when May Valentine, who's been so good at interviewing these ladies and wrestlers in general, all the talent, she has an opportunity to ask Genocide about that incident, doesn't even mention it. So again, it's like, where's continuity? What'd you think about the backstage, Kev?
Well, I'm going to second that. This was probably one of the highlights of the show for me. I along with you guys, I think Taryn Terrell has been strong pretty much in everything she's done. The only exception being that match with the roll up and everything. I wasn't a big fan of that. And then getting out and cutting a promo in the ring. I'd really like to see what she actually can do in the ring. But given the environment we're in, that's the kind of match I would expect from the NWA.
Yeah.
So I don't expect them to let her just go out there and wrestle a match. It's got to be a sideshow so we can have Carney Land all the time. But I would say that the promo was really good. I liked how they built up Genocide. I liked the chemistry between her and Mae Valentine. So I thought it was a good promo. I mean, it was solid. And again, I think Genocide, what's great is Genocide just stood there. It was imposing. And that's actually better than her talking. Just standing there, she is imposing. So staying there being imposing was great. And I think I'd like to see more of her with Taryn Terrell because it gives a little bit of a mouthpiece to the character, which I think a character like Genocide is going to need a mouthpiece because if you're going to cut promos with a character like that, you're going to have to be really good at it. So again, maybe if before she starts talking, because we saw this with Camille, who's gotten better and better and better on the mic, but at first it was a little rough to watch. This week, Camille might have been one of the best people on the mic overall. So again, hopefully if they're going to have Genocide talk, hopefully she doesn't talk like a robot or something like that. But it wouldn't surprise me if they did.
Yeah, that's the sad part. All right, before I talk about my thoughts on this, I want to hit some things on the chat because we love our chat people.
Yeah.
Seriously, people, I would not be doing this if it wasn't for I enjoy talking to these two and reading your chat things. But Willie Bowen, NWA Power should be more wrestling and less talking. And compared to current setup, yes. Again, it should be about 50-50. Roseville TV title matches, 10 minutes, please, and put focus back on ranking fast-paced action week to week. Yeah, good idea. Like that. Kerry McDermott, put more story in the ring. Yep, that's good. Even Roseville said yep. Jimmy agrees with Jay on Taryn, and so do I. She's like the bright spot. If they're going to do a promo, she's my bright spot. Love her character, and I didn't think I would, honestly.
Yeah,
it has surprised me how much I've enjoyed her. James H. Jackson Jr. probably hits the nail on the head better than any of the three of us. I'm all for promos, but the promos have to lead to a match, whereas these promos lead to more promos the following week, which may not even be related to the promo from the week before.
Right. Which may not result in any kind of match.
That's my little add in there.
A match may never happen.
Exactly. What would Lupez do? Says, good evening, fellas. Better late than never, which, of course, we were late, so we can't complain about that. Willie's agreeing with James. Roswell basically wants to see storylines that make sense week to week, minimal jib-jab when not needed, and focus on the legitimacy of the athletes. We want action in the ring that resembles the NWA logo. Oh, yeah, Roswell's nailed it.
Well, DK, I'm going to jab in on that one. I know it's your talk time, but I'm just going to have to break it to you, Roz. I started out with that same mindset, and it was driving me nuts week in and week out. It ain't going to happen. Just telling you, it ain't going to happen. Carry on, DK.
Still driving me nuts.
Well, as for the interview segment, Love Terrell, they played Genocide right. They are a good odd couple tag team, which I think may have been what Jay was looking for earlier. They're kind of an odd couple, but they're the right type of odd couple. They balance each other. They complement each other as far as, the perky, happy little the sunshine, the heel Taryn versus the I'm going to stand here and just look at you and you will start becoming scared. Genocide. I'm enjoying both of them, so maybe they won't blow with these two, but I'm sure they'll break up in 3 weeks.
Yeah. So
was there any other wrestling on the show? Because so far we've only had like
baby.
One match and one not match.
Well,
PK, what was the time to wrestling to promo time this week? Did you look at it this week?
Of course I did, because that's the type of nerd I am. All right. It was a 53 it was a 53-minute show. Now, I do bell time to bell time because that's what's wrestling, especially when they take them 3 minutes to do introductions. So bell time to bell time was 21 minutes and 30 seconds, not including the 2 minutes and 6 seconds of the Tyrus bullshit, because I did not put that as ring action. Okay. And about 30 minutes of talk. So we had 4% of the time was the bullshitter Tyrus, 40% of the time was actual in-ring action, and about 56% of the time was talk. So it's actually better than it was the week before, which was 30 to 70%. But
let's talk about the main.
Well, we don't even have to go to the main yet because we still have Slice Boogie versus Crimson. We didn't even get to this match yet. Now, these things, again, I start picking up on what they're saying in commentary, and I know someone's feeding them these lines, but we hear Tim Storm allude to a friendship becoming between Boogie and Jack Stane. And I'm like, where do we see that? Where has that been exemplified? Where have they showed that these guys are becoming friends? And it's like Tim Storm is talking out of his ass, or he's telling us what's happening backstage that we aren't privy to. But this is where the continuity and the booking doesn't make sense. Like, show me a video of those guys sharing a ham sandwich in the back, because I don't see where these guys have been buddies. If anything...
What'd you say, Jay?
Exactly. You can still get that shirt, by the way. Alliance-wrestling.com. Head the merch store. You can still buy that shirt. Only $20. And all proceeds go to the Juvenile Diabetes Research Fund that we will be... we already put $80 towards that cause. If you guys want to buy a shirt, you're going to put that money directly to that cause. But, again, I don't get how Tim Storm gets to that point. And again, someone's feeding that to him, I'm positive. But we don't get that. And the match is a pretty decent match. I mean, Boogie looks good. Crimson looks good. You got Jax on the outside who, for whatever reason, stops Crimson from using a chair in the match. Hey, you don't need to do that, brother. You got him beat. I don't get it. Interestingly enough, earlier in the show, we had the Masked Mystery Man finish his opponent with a Death Valley driver, and in this match we have Crimson finishing his match with 2 Death Valley drivers. So it's like we talk about finishes and the continuity and just keeping things fresh. The show can't even manage to get that right, because I feel like they should have ended that with anything else besides the Death Valley driver. We already saw that. Now we're seeing it again. The match itself was pretty good up until that finish. That's what left a bad taste in my mouth. And then now there's, again, more dissension. The War Kings are not on the same page. Might as well be calling them Kratos and Stevens. Kevin, what did you think?
For what I expect out of I thought this was all right. I like Slice Boogie in the ring. I like some of the moves that he does. I feel like I've seen better from him outside of the NWA than I have in the NWA, but that doesn't surprise me either, because I've seen that pretty much with every wrestler in the show. I don't think I've seen anybody have their best match in the NWA. Most of the time, their best matches have happened outside the NWA, minus maybe Pope. Pope might be the exception to that rule, but it was good. I mean, I liked it. I think what you're saying, Jay, is actually where if I were to take this show a little more seriously, and you notice there's a lot of that tongue-in-cheek in my conversation tonight, but if I were to, this would be something that bugged me. Number one, there's so much dissension that in every segment that, like DK said, it loses any of its meaning. It almost becomes status quo. I thought that, and then of course having the same finish in the same show twice when there's only 3 matches, is just a big wrestling no-no. You just don't do that. especially for a show that has roll-ups for half their finishes. You could do something else, you know.
Sorry, real quick, Kikuchi got me. He said Dane and Crimson, the Peace Queens. That just made me laugh.
Right, and I mean, I think it's funny, like some of the responses, like Rosville. You know, Rosville, man, I'm just gonna be real with you, man. This is what they do. This is how NWA do. They take wrestlers that should be one way and they turn them into a joke, and that's just what they do. I mean, did you not see the Ricky Morton wrestling school promo? I mean, they'll put anything on this show. Sorry, guys, I'm never going to miss my shot to take a shot at Ricky Morton.
Yeah, we know. It even brings us a little bit of happiness.
Jay, I just ate. Don't make me throw up in my mouth. Now, again, for those of you just tuning in and you're hearing me dog on the Rock and Roll Express for the first time, especially Ricky Morton, because actually Rob Gibson was cool, though he smoked all of our weed in Arkansas one time, though I don't smoke weed anymore. Look, I have no problem with the Rock and Roll Express from the 80s, maybe even the early 90s. But once they started, once it got to this era, it's time to pack up and get out. If you want to draw based on name, come in, do a Legends match with another legend. But whatever. There we go. So. And I did a shoot promo on Ricky Morton. They got me blackballed from the NWA at one point because he won the NWA World Junior Heavyweight title, and I didn't like it. I thought it was stupid. There we go.
You weren't the only one.
All right, DK. What were your thoughts on this match?
Oh, you want me to talk about the match now?
Yeah, let's move on.
Honestly, let's put this match in two parts. Let's put the match from the bell ringing to Crimson wanting to use the chair.
Good match.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Big guys doing big guy stuff to each other in the ring. Liked it. 3 stars. Let's start from where Crimson goes to use the chair and Dane crawls up on the thing, tells him no, and takes it from him. What the F? -1 star just for that. At least Crimson won.
At least.
I swear, if Slice Boogie had gotten in there and rolled him up, and I was watching this on my big screen TV, I swear I would have put something through the TV that happened. So at least Crimson won. Okay, guys, small little rabbit hole here. One of the few other wrestling shows that I watch some is SWE here in Texas. And Crimson and Dane were actually on this most recent episode where they were big, bad, freaking heels who went down to the ring together and beat the snot, to be politically correct, out of a couple of guys in the ring.
That's what we want.
Chasing the tag team titles.
That's what we want.
Wow, that sounds like some really complicated high-level booking right there.
Very. Okay. Now, I don't know what's going on with Dane and Crimson. Maybe they want to go their own ways. I don't know if they're coming back to SWE anytime soon or whatever. But that's the way you book them. And that's what they are. If you want to split them up, you can split them up. Tag teams split up all the time without getting into feuds with each other. They just move on.
Mm-hmm.
So, and like Kevin said, going back to what I said, oh yeah, there's problems in every team and group, so what do I care that there's a problem in this one? So you booked a good match in the ring for how? This match actually went just over 7 minutes. So probably 6 minutes of really good ring action and then a minute of bullcrap that makes me, again, who gets over now? Crimson won. The Boogie's not over. Crimson and his partner are arguing. They can't get along, and they're supposed to be top contenders to the tag team title. Dane, one of the biggest, toughest men, comes across looking a little bit like a wuss because he doesn't want his partner to use a chair in a no disqualification match. He should have handed him the chair.
He should have gotten in the ring and punched him himself.
They should have beat.
It was supposed to be a grudge match. Like, all Crimson was trying to do was get out the grudge. Killed his buzz.
End it once and for all was kind of the way he was doing it. And it's just like, God, that booking sucked. So what do you do with a match? How am I supposed to react to a match that's good, but the booking sucks? I mean, what am I supposed to do at the end of the show or at the end of the thing? Go, well, I want to see that again? No? Yes? I don't know. I'm left scratching my head. Going back to Terry's statement.
Real quick,
we have a Twilight Zone gong show.
Real quick, Rosville said it best. What would Hawk and Animal do?
Yeah.
Hawk and Animal would have been feeding him a chair. Kev, your thoughts on the match?
More importantly, before he says, more importantly, what would Hawk and Animal have done if a promoter had come to him and said, "We want you to do this"? They would have beat the crap out of the promoter.
Oh, that's a good point. Good point. And no good promoter would have ever asked him to do it in the first place. No real promoter, no real booker would insult them by asking them to do something so stupid. But
because they knew they would have got beat up.
But we're not experts. So before Jack Stain comes after me on Twitter or in my house, even, hey, we're no experts. We're just my opinion, Jack.
And
I know you kill me.
And with that being said, I think the three of us love Jack Stain. I think we all really admire him, not just as a wrestler, but as a human being. And it's like, man, you're better than this, and you know it. And if you don't, you should.
Right.
All right. Should we go on to
patients tell doctors how to run hospitals all the time.
Moving right along before DK gets himself into trouble.
So that brings us to the main event. And it's kind of funny because earlier on, when Strictly Business, they mentioned it as a 2-on-1 match, but really it's supposed to be a 3-way match. And this kind of bothered me too. And no, I'm not an expert booker, but I think if you're trying to build a tag team division and separately build a division for that TV title and a division for the national title, I don't think you need to pull a guy out of a tag team to put him in a title match. Again, what has Paro done in the ring to give him this match? Yeah, he beat up Mims. He beat up Jordan Clearwater. Well, you know what? Everyone's beating up Jordan Clearwater, so there's no point in that. That doesn't mean anything. And twice in tag team matches, he's looked like the weakest link. And again, I like Paro, but let's just call it what it is. So he doesn't belong in this match. And then you've got, obviously probably the most underutilized guy on the roster in Tom Latimer, who's just great, looking great. You've got Chris Adonis. In this match, I thought it was a pretty good match. Like, I honestly did. I like the way they built it. Okay, when it was Paro in the ring, they were beating the snot out of him. When it was just them, they kind of went back to the pure wrestling. It was kind of funny and it was enjoyable. I actually liked the match. I don't like the booking of the match, but I thought the match was pretty good. Kev, what were your thoughts on this one?
So, in a perfect world, these guys are beating the hell out of each other through and through. But this is not a perfect world. This is the Twilight Zone. This is a world where we take serious wrestlers and make them funny. Like you said, Jay, I found it funny that blase. And then you had a comedy finish. I mean, really. I mean, it was just 2 comedy finishes in a row. Both make you laugh. So again, like we're looking at Carneyland. I mean, normally the way these things go is when 2 teammates are in there, one of them starts to try to win over the other one, all bets are off, and then all hell breaks loose. And somebody just wins. Of course, it's wrestling. I know there's convolution always these days. But for what it was, though, for it being an NWA match and by NWA standards, this is one of the better matches I've seen. It told a story. Tom Latimer was freaking outrageous. There's just little things that you guys probably never noticed that Tom Latimer does that's just what great wrestlers do, man. There was a situation a couple times where Perro didn't look like Perro was looking like he was a little bit lost and in between, and you could totally see Latimer just cover it. Like, just perfectly cover it, go right into the thing, leading Perro right into the situation perfectly, not trying to take too much. And I just believe a guy like that's that good, that is that really selfless in the ring, he's going to get his one day, hopefully soon, whether it's with NWA or somewhere else, because Tom Latimer is just a straight-up talent. And again, that's not to say that Chris Adonis is not a talent. He's a talent. It's just his time has kind of passed. Tom Latimer is in his time. This is his moment. And I think I just hope that whatever his past has cost him, that he's got those things rectified so that whenever the star starts to really rise, it can go as far up as it can go. I haven't been a fan of Paro since day one. Still not a fan of him. I don't buy him as a tough guy. He just doesn't. The only time I've seen him act tough was against smaller guys, like Clearwater. Other than that, he doesn't really. I mean, his punching and his physicality is just not physical. And I say like my buddy Keith Lee, who I can actually speak on because we wrestled, and I do have a clean victory against Keith Lee, by the way, just for those keeping track. But no, Keith Lee, like a big wrestler, but super physical. He throws his physicality around, and I think Perro doesn't do that enough for being the way he is. He's too small for being so big, and I don't mean small like he does little guy moves. I mean he doesn't fill up space enough with his language and the way he moves and maneuvers. I think when you're a big guy like that, the small things mean so much. If you're going to throw a headbutt, you throw a massive headbutt. If you're going to throw a punch, you throw a massive punch. If you're going to hit a shoulder tackle, it's the biggest shoulder tackle you ever saw. If it's going to be a forearm, it's a huge forearm. As we're saying, like a guy like, I'm just throwing a name out there, this may be a smaller guy, like a Shinsuke Nakamura, a smaller guy, he's going to throw quicker, more distinct, more precise type. And I'm getting technical here, guys, but these are the things I'm looking at that say a guy like Latimer does well, that I could see Perro doesn't do well, especially when you have them in the same ring together. It becomes very obvious in that regards. So all in all, it was one of the better matches I've seen. I think Chris Adonis was not deserving as the winner, but it's the NWA, man. That's par for course.
DK.
Let's talk about something real quick before I get into the match. They brought out Trevor Murdoch, former national champion.
Oh, come on.
They brought out Aaron Stevens, former national champion, who actually displayed, fun character, and yes. I love his thinking with the chair and talking about the chair. And I mean, that was classic Stevens, and it was just so. I mean, I honestly, when we're talking about what we enjoyed, best part of the show, that was my best part of the show. Watching him think and complain about the chair and it being broken, making other references and things. That was beautiful.
I agree.
Okay. Will someone explain to me why neither one of these two? I sort of understand with Stevens as tag team champion, but why wouldn't you put? But that doesn't matter. Joe Impero's a tag team wrestler; he's in there. So why wouldn't you put these two very recent tag national champions in this thing? Well, I mean, I know the reasoning, but it's stupid. And of course, three-way matches are stupid. Yeah. Now, let's look at the match. Let's go bell to bell. It played out the way it should. The tag team beat up the non-tag team member, threw him out. They should have. I understand the pure wrestling at the beginning, but like Kevin said, at some point they kind of should have got over that, start to beat each other up. And the absolute most important thing was at the end when there was a win, you could see that dissension again, but the wrong guy won. Vladimir should have won, because then that knocked Adonis out, and Adonis is the one that gave up the title. So now he has a reason to be more upset, because his partner here really should have helped him get his title back, but he double-crossed him. So, of course, in typical NWA manner, we don't get that, because that would be a story that would be good and make us go, what's going to happen here? So, that be that. I mean, as far as the match is concerned, it was pretty solid. It was pretty good. I gave it 3 stars. Didn't have to deduct any out of stupidity. And it went just over 8 minutes. And so, you know, if they would cut down on some of this crap and give these guys some actual time, you know, let them go 10, 12 minutes, you know, we could see some good wrestling. And then, as was said earlier, if we get these promos on this week to mean something next week. And for those that don't know, they didn't film in order. I don't know if they did that last time or not, but this time I know they did not film in order. And I'm beginning to, it's very obvious to me in this lack of continuity that they didn't film in order. And so I'm not holding out much hope for the rest of this season, and it's going to be a long season. And I don't know. I mean, that was basically the show, wasn't it?
That was it. I mean, that was it.
I love the Aaron Stevens part too. I can't believe I forgot about it. That was actually one of my. It was like it brought a little bit of joy to my heart to see Aaron Stevens being Aaron Stevens. And again, like I've said before, you don't know what you got till it's gone. And I miss that Aaron Stevens character. And I also think it was a little too soon to have Murdoch out. Just let him rest. Let him rest on his loss for a little bit, because I think that it means more when he comes back.
Well, and the other thing too, right? So you had Murdoch at the booth, who just a couple weeks ago was fighting these guys, and I always felt like while I'm watching it, I was like, well, when is Murdoch going to get involved? Now that he wasn't ever going to get involved, but it's like, oh, let bygones be bygones, let them wrestle the match. You would think that he would have gone out there and maybe tried to sabotage them. And the same thing, Odinson was right there too, and it's not like, you know, Odinson and Paro are faces. Why didn't he get involved? And again, these are just nitpicks. Overall, I thought the match was pretty good. I was happy with it. I was fine with the end result, because I know, look, basically what we're learning in Billy Corgan's NWA is there's no such thing as repercussions, because you do whatever the hell you want, and you're still going to get an opportunity to wrestle for the title that you abdicated. So it just doesn't make sense, and that's the problem with all of this, is it just doesn't make sense. Well, I mean, that's it, guys. That was the show. DK, I mean, do you have any closing thoughts? Kev, is there anything else you want to say?
Devin, go ahead and go.
I don't really have any closing thoughts. There were elements of this show that I liked. It was primarily the ring action, and then like Aaron Stevens and the Taryn Terrell at genocide part. All the other stuff I absolutely could have done without. Mm-hmm. It missed Pope. I missed him.
Mm-hmm.
Not only did I miss him, but I missed the fact that, TV title thing, which they have been kind of pretty consistent in, each week, referencing the TV title or setting up a match to see who's going to face the champion. And they seem to have dropped that. And, so of course the part that was good and made sense and built story, they would drop. I don't know. It's hard to justify watching this outside, like I said, just being able to have some fun time with you guys on Thursday night.
Yeah. Kevin, any closing thoughts?
Well, I liked what Kikuchi said, that if us three were a faction, what would we call them? I think that's a good question to ask the chat, so feel free to throw those answers out there. And who would Billy Corgan book to turn on who on the other two? That's a good point. At what point, how long would our faction have to go before dissension started?
Week 1.
Yeah, week 1.
We'd have to go, immediately. Ladies and gentlemen, this is DK, J, and the Modern Day Hero. Here's them coming up to the stage to introduce themselves. Guys, welcome to the NWA dissension.
DK,
oh, you talk for me.
DK would say we're both wrong. Kevin would be ready to take the mic and cut the promo, and I'd be in the back plotting how I was going to turn on everyone.
Oh man. Hey, Brian Rosa said, I'd like to see the Alliance versus This Is Pro Wrestling. Listen, man, if you put me in that match with my boys in here, that's like putting Andre the Giant in there. So it's just gonna be a mop job. But I still think it'd be fun to see. Not only that, though, we don't want that to come across that we have anything against those guys.
Those are our boys. Even Dr. Stinson with his pro Nick Aldis rhetoric. I mean, I still love that guy. All those guys over there. We're all part of this this hashtag NWA fam. We have different methods, but we're all trying to do the same thing, which is to promote the NWA. Their route is a little bit more palatable to the National Wrestling Alliance, and that's okay. But we're all doing the same thing, man. We all love this brand, and we're all just trying to pump it up. So
I'd smack all three of them with a chair.
Hey, Kokushi called us the flatulent Freebirds.
Oh,
that's probably not wrong.
I've been called worse.
I also do want to respond to Chris Drummond. What pay-per-view are you more excited about, 73 or Empower? Man, that's actually a tough one. I mean, I'm excited about both.
Without a card, it's hard for me to get excited about either. I mean, the assumption is, right, that the 73rd is going to be Murdoch versus Aldis 2, that on the surface sounds pretty good to me. There's a lot of history building up to that. You said 3. Well, for the title, this is 2, right?
There's supposed to be another match before that.
Oh, yeah, you're right. But they won't acknowledge that anyways. And then you have the women's pay-per-view, which, again, no matches are announced yet, and we don't even really know the roster. I mean, we could assume Thunder Rosa is going to be there. We could assume Camille will defend the title. We could assume they'll bring Serena Deep back and Melina and Genocide and Sky Blue and Kylie Ray. And we could probably assume Taryn Terrell will be there as well. But we don't really know anything, right? Like, we don't know what kind of roster they bring in. I mean, they they have access to a lot of different talents. If they work with Impact, bringing in Deonna Purrazzo would be pretty exciting. I doubt it would happen, but bringing in Britt Baker versus Thunder Rosa would be pretty exciting. But these are all just speculation. So until they actually put out a card, it's hard for me to get excited about either one of them, to be honest.
Yeah, you guys are. Go ahead, DK.
Well, I just have a question on what do you think of this? I'm interested in your guys' opinion. So, Mickie James basically did an open call to all female wrestlers, no matter what their contract status is, which Triple H actually had something funny to say about.
What'd he say?
Why would you have contracts if they were going to be open to go anywhere? There's a reason you put them under contract.
Nice.
And so, which was kind of my thing. It's like one of those things it reminds me of back, talk about something cheesy from the 80s. In San Antonio had a promotion called Southwest Wrestling, and they got on USA Network actually before WWE, and they started to take off. And so they decided to crown a world champion. And so they did an open invitation to all champions and wrestlers to be part of the tournament. And of course, no champion from any other organization anywhere joined. And I think Adrian Adonis actually ended up winning the championship. And then they lost their USA thing and the title disappeared. But anyway, they called it the undisputed title, and the reason why it was undisputed was because all the other champions had the chance to wrestle for it. So, I mean, I'm curious what your thought is. Is that just like an overly gimmicky thing to say, oh, well, it's open to all female wrestlers, no matter their contract status?
I think there might have been some truth to it, in that she wanted to get talents from AEW and talents from Impact, and maybe maybe the girls who are working Ring of Honor. I don't think it had anything to do with the WWE. We know that WWE doesn't have an open door policy, where AEW has shown a little bit more leniency with its talents, and of course Impact the same thing. I think it's more directed at those promotions and not so much the WWE.
Well, and I know that, but even there, I don't think you're going to get the world champions of any of the other promotions. I mean, if you get somebody from Ring of Honor, you might get Quinn McKay, or you might get maybe one of the tag team champions from Impact if they go that way. Technically, Serena Deeb is under contract to AEW, so if they use her, you have your AEW person. Something about it just struck me as being a little insincere, I guess.
Well, we are getting up against the past the half hour, and we really don't want to get into 2 hours here, so I think maybe that's a good spot to end the show. Kevin, if folks want to follow you on the social medias, how do they do it?
You can go on Twitter, Kevin Lee Frazier. You can find me on Instagram, Kevin Lee Frazier. Facebook, Kevin L. Frazier. And if you want to see some of my wrestling shenanigans, you can find me on Kevin Douglas 247 on YouTube, or you can really just Google or YouTube search Kevin Douglas Wrestling, and plenty of stuff out there to watch if you're interested. So that's me.
DK, how can they follow you on the socials?
If you want to follow me on social, do Twitter, which is DKMFWTX. I don't post a lot, but I do share some stuff.
Yeah, Kikuchi asked real quick, and I want to specify this. If you guys are in the Northeast, specifically if you're near New Jersey, Glassboro, you do want to check out Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators. They're putting on an event. This June 26th, in 2 days. You're going to see them crown a new dog world champion. The interim champion's facing the previous champion. They're going to unify that title, make an undisputed dog champion. A lot of other great matches already set. You guys want to check it out, go to dogprowrestling.com or any of their social media to find out how to get to that show. We know that the events that Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators put on are top-notch, and you definitely get your money's worth. If you're in the area, please check them out. They're a friend of the show, and we hope them nothing but success and a sellout crowd this Saturday night. With that being said, you can follow me on all social medias at the Alliance Blog, and that's Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, Twitch, everything. That's where we're at. Oh, excuse me, Kikuchi corrected me. It's not the world's title, it's just the dog heavyweight title. Excuse me. But that's going to do it for us, guys. Again, we appreciate you being here. We appreciate you guys spending your Thursday nights with us. This is so much fun, and it gets more fun when you guys are a part of it. I want to thank everyone who's here week in and week out. Some of the new faces we see that join us. Appreciate you guys. And that's going to do it for us. So until next time, we're going to see you all at the matches. Good night now.